So welcome again, Adobe Captivate versus Articulate Storyline. We'll get started here by talking about some of the shared features between the two products. So if you're unfamiliar, both products are powerful e-learning development tools. They're designed to essentially replace a product like PowerPoint and help you come up with creative, interactive e-learning modules. They both can export a Flash-based product so that you can get an SWF when you're done, if you're familiar with that. You can also export now to HTML5. And the one thing that's really unique about both of these is, in comparison to using something like PowerPoint or anything like that, is it's a HTML5, or sorry, it's basically a timeline design product. So what that means is, when you're used to using PowerPoint or anything like that, PowerPoint essentially offers, the user will click when one slide's done and you have to lead through, whereas this can be, you can create something with a timeline. So you can say that each slide lasts a certain amount of time, and at the end of that slide, you can move on to the next one. Anyway, both products offer some really great themes. Both products offer a thing called branching, where you can go and basically create multiple documents or multiple presentations inside one document and sort of jump back and forth between the two of them, almost like a choose your own adventure book, if you will. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is they both offer an importation from PowerPoint. So obviously these would sort of replace PowerPoint, but you can take PowerPoint products, or sorry, take PowerPoint projects and bring them into either Storyline or Captivate, which works really, really well. They both have a built-in quiz designer, and they both are compatible with their own LMS. So you can export to Adobe Connect, which is what we're using right now, actually, as a virtual meeting software. Or you can also export it to the Articulate online LMS, which is something you can purchase from Articulate. All right, so get started here with a little bit of a Captivate demonstration. We're going to go through and take a look at the interface design, take a look at some of the workspaces, maybe even take a look at a little bit of the themes for creating a new project and some of the object styles. We're going to work all the way through doing some recording, the timeline, maybe even a little bit of branching in some of the rollover items, all the way through and add a small quiz. So let's get started doing that. Again, just want to check, can everyone hear me okay? Can everyone see everything? I'm just actually going to type that up into the chat pod here to make sure everyone's okay. All right. Looks like I haven't anyone say no. So, all right, I'm gonna just go into this sharing screen here, and I'm gonna go ahead and just share my screen, and we'll get started with Adobe Captivate. All right, back here for a quick second here. All right, everyone can hear me. Great. Okay, so Adobe Captivate. You'll notice as soon as you get in there, it's a pretty straightforward interface design. If you're familiar with any other products like Photoshop, Illustrator, or InDesign, you'll notice a very similar look and feel. When you're inside a document, we're just going to go here and create a new blank project. And I just chose a size, 640 by 40, really small size. And our project's just going to open up. All right, so here's our brand new project, and you'll notice that you can do a few things, like it automatically gives you a basic theme. This is this black bar running across the top, so you can add anything like title, and obviously you can just turn around and add a subtitle. Now, one thing I can do is I can go into our themes here and add a variety of different fun little themes. There's one called clouds. When I do that, it takes a couple seconds here. It's just going to replace everything. These are some of the great built-in themes that come automatically with Captivate. All right. And you can see here there's a few more Just go back a little bit. You can see there's a variety of themes here. Okay, so this particular user interface, you'll notice on the right-hand side shows all the properties of the items. So if I select one of these text objects, or what they refer to as captions, you can adjust anything here from changing the size. And I can make it obviously a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. I can bold things, etc., etc. I can even decide if I want to change the fill color. And you can basically customize this completely using this property panel. Now, the next thing I can do here is I can turn around and add additional pages to it if I want by going File, my apologies here, Insert, and add a new slide. But I also have this other option saying New Slide From. And I can add a variety of different pre-made templates. For example, I can add an image collage, or I can add caption and content right, or caption and content left. This is the one I really like to use, the caption and content, because you can add your title, add your subtitle, and then on the right-hand side, you have your choice. This is what they call a content placeholder. So I can say, you know, I want to make this a caption, I want to add an animation, I want to add an image. I can just go ahead and add an image. I can choose import by grabbing something outside of my computer. It's usually going to take me to my sample pictures here. I'm going to grab these nice penguins and hit OK. And I can carry on like that all the way through. Now, before I continue with showing you a little bit more about the project, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the user interface, because this is what they call a workspace. You can set up it so your property panel is right here. You can make your timeline across the bottom a little bit taller, or you can make it a little bit smaller. You can also change your view from 100% to 150 if you're used to using PowerPoint or Word. You can change it back and forth. I'm just going to go and make this one into Best Fit. And the nice part about Best Fit is when I make this a little bit smaller, it's always going to fill that area, which is really handy. Now, also at the bottom is the timeline. So here's how this product is so much better than using any sort of presentation software. First of all, you'll notice here that this particular slide is running for 3 seconds. If I select anywhere on this particular slide, you'll notice that I get the property panel for that slide. It's using the master slide of caption and content right. Now, if I take a look down, it says that this is going to play for 3 seconds. I can change that to 6 seconds, and it will play all the way through. Another way I can do that is actually dragging this back and forth. So I can say, you know, I want this to play for 10 seconds. But you know what, let's change it up a little bit. Because now, you might be used to using PowerPoint where every time you hit your key or hit enter or have a clicker, it's going to change from piece to piece. But you know, obviously that's not really the plan if you're going to have someone using this as an e-learning piece. So what I'm going to do is have the placeholder show up immediately. I can go back and forth with when it ends. I'm just going to have it end all the way through. But notice I have a subtitle. I'm going to make it so that subtitle doesn't show up for 2 seconds. And I'm going to make sure that caption after that doesn't show up for another 4 seconds. And then this final picture of the penguins don't show up till the 6 second mark. So if I actually play this now, all the way through, it doesn't really play as well with you guys viewing through Adobe Connect, but here, let me play it one more time. Because I haven't added anything to the titles yet, they're not turning on and off. So if I just turn around and add title and subtitle and content. Now if I play this, there we go. Subtitle, content, image. So you can have it play through. So it's really handy. The timeline works like that. And when you take some of the Adobe Captivate training, I'm one of the instructors here, so I show all of the products as they go along. Actually, the Neutrona Group is one of the only Adobe Captivate training centers in Canada. There's actually only 2 Adobe certified instructors for Captivate in Canada, and only 1 in Ontario, and that's myself. So you're definitely in good hands if you decide to take some of the training. We run a training class of the beginner and the advanced class, or what we call the essentials and beyond the essentials. We run one of those classes every month. So if you're interested in any training or anything like that, that's what we do. All right, so we've created a presentation. I took a look at a little bit of the timeline. We took a look at the user interface. I love this user interface the way I have it set. So I have it set to best fit. I changed the height of this to where I want. I think everything's great. I can actually save this sort of workspace just in case I want to come back to it, or someone gets on my computer and tries to change something. I can go into Window, Workspace, and you'll notice here I call it Todd. I'm actually just going to save over it as Todd. And it says it already replaces. Would you like to exist? That won't happen if you've never added one before. And hit OK. You'll notice here it says Todd in the top corner of my screen. I can then make this a little bit taller, move this around. At any given time, I can just go Todd, reset Todd. And everything will go right back to the way it was. I just actually scrolled over here. Oh, let's move that back. Now, so I'm going to add a little bit more here to this. So we've covered sort of the workspaces, some themes, some object styles. This particular title here, after we made these changes, uses a style called the default title Smart Shape Style. But if I want to change the size of it up a little bit, make it a little bit larger, make it a little bit smaller, anything like that, and where it says title, I really love what I've done. I might even change the color of it to red or something like that. I can actually go and save this as a whole new style, and I could call it main title. And I can hit OK. I can go back to anything else and select that object and say, you know what, I want to use main title. And it follows that style. So you can create a style, you can apply a style all the way through your document. Anyone used to using Adobe InDesign or anything like that is probably familiar with what I'm talking about. Styles work all the way through. Now, from here, I'm going to take a little bit of a look at some of the recording, and then we'll look at some of the rollover items too. So it's a lot of fun. So say I want to record something that's a browser-based interface. I need to teach all of my employees how to go somewhere and do something on a website. So for example, I want to show all of my employees how to go to Google and find a picture of an antique bicycle. I can go here and go File, and I can record a new software simulation. Or I can actually go and insert that as well. So I can record additional slides. So I can say, I want to record after this particular slide. And I say, I want to record my Google window, and I want to have it snap to the window size so that it matches, so it's the 640x480. You can also do a recording on its own with its own size. So if you wanted to just have a standalone recording that was 1024 by 768, you can do that by saying File, New, Record New Software Simulation. And I'm going to record this as an automatic demonstration, and I can hit record. So what's going to happen here is no audio gets recorded. It's just going to record my screen interactions. So you'll see here I can type in antique bicycles, and I can hit images. And whenever I'm done, I can just hit escape. Oh, apparently I hit my task manager as well. And just jump back in here. You'll notice I actually have a little mistake there at the end. I have that task manager come up, so we're going to show you how to delete some slides. But you can play this back now. You'll see here that you see my mouse move around. You see that I type it in, click on antique bicycles. I decide that I like that. I'm going to click on images. All the images appear. And then finally I have this one little error. So I'm going to take these last two slides here, right-click on them, and say, I don't want these. I want to delete them. And I'm going to preview this for you. I'm going to go File, Preview, Project. Takes a couple seconds here, and it's just going to pull up the time because it's actually creating a full SWF for us to preview. All right, so we can see the titles coming up. Plays along through, and when it gets to the end of this particular slide, it's going to go on. We can see the recording here. My mouse moves around a little bit, Now all these things you can edit. So where it says the word select, you can change that word. You can move where the mouse moves around, and a whole bunch of stuff. And we actually cover all of this. And it's obviously it's done playing there. We cover all this in the Essentials of Captivate training. So you can take any of these particular captions where it says press Shift Escape and say, you know what, that was a mistake. I didn't want to have that. I'm going to hit delete to that. Or I can go in here and where it says select, you know, it's going to be just a, make this a little bit larger. You can even change some of the colors on it by some of those styles right there. Okay, so everything's done there. We create everything that we love. I'm just going to go to the very bottom here, and I'm going to go Insert a New Slide. But this time, I'm actually just going to throw a question in there. So instead, I might just go grab a question slide and say, you know what, I want a multiple choice and maybe a true-false. So people could watch this and watch my presentation. At the end, they get asked a couple questions. You can ask a question like, what type of bicycle did we search for? And you could say antique, or you could say racing bike. And if you want to add more things, you can go to the quiz properties, change the answers to 4. You can get a couple more answers here, and you can fill them out like so. I'm not going to. I'm just going to sort of skip ahead here. Next question, true, false. Pretty straightforward. It's the same thing. How you choose what answer is correct, whether it's multiple choice or true, false, is you actually just select the little radio button here. That chooses which question is the actual correct one. And you can have these answers get shuffled. So if you always want to have A as the correct answer, but you don't want it to appear that way when your users are taking the course, you can shuffle it around. So that's adding a quiz. The only thing I did want to cover a little bit was some of these fun little things like rollover items. For example, you can go and insert a small little image like a rollover image. Now, here's a sort of a scenario. You want to educate all your new employees about a location, a new building or something like that. You could show a picture of the building, an overhead view, a Google Map view or what have you, and you could have little rollover areas. So if a user moves their mouse into a certain area of the map, a larger map would appear. That's what they call a rollover image. And you just select a rollover image. You can select some of the items here. I'm just going to go into my computer here and just going to go to users, myself, and I'm going to go to, I believe it is images. If not, I can go to a recent place. I think I have some my pictures. Maybe there's not anything on here, but thought I was going to just jump in here something quickly. I usually have these ready for you. There we go, pictures, sample pictures, and the penguins. There we go. So it's my rollover image. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here so I can make this a little bit smaller. But what you get is you get your image and you get the rollover area. So for example, this little blue part here just appears as sort of like the trigger, or the rollover area which your mouse is going to view it from. View back in best fit. So if I move this particular item down, I don't know why it doesn't want to move on me. Right here. And there's my picture. So if I move my mouse near this, it plays. So for example, if I go File, Preview this particular slide, bear with me here, it's going to load. All right, if I move my mouse near this blue area here, see the picture will appear. And you can change the style of that as well. So that blue you can make completely invisible and all sorts of things like that. So imagine you had a map on here and you want to show a detailed area of a map. For example, you want to show a parking lot where certain people are allowed to park. You can show a detailed map or a campus view or an office, something like that. So anyway, those are rollover items. That's adding some quizzing. The last thing you can do when you're done with your presentation, everything you've created, there's all sorts of things you can do, and there's all sorts of fun little actions and stuff. And obviously, we're not going to cover those in detail today. But we can go here and we can publish this particular document. We can take it, we can publish it, export it as an SWF, or a HTML5 document, or we can also get a PDF addition to it. So you can grab a PDF that you can email to someone to view this particular piece of training. You can upload it directly to your Adobe Connect Learning Management server. You can export for media and grab yourself an MOV file or an MP4 file. If you wanted to have it as just a solid long playing thing, like you wanted to upload it for YouTube. You can email someone SWF directly, you can upload it to an FTP directly, or you can print out sort of slide notes, blank slides for just like this. If you wanted to have, say 3 per page, and you want to just print this out so you can have it as a handout, you can. So that's basically the small little preview of what you can do with Adobe Captivate. I'm just going to hit close to this and hop back into the meeting room here. So we covered the interface design, the workspaces, some of the themes, object styles, looked at the recording, some of the timeline. Didn't really talk much about branching, but we could get there. Looked at rollover items. You can do some fun things like adding actions, which take a little bit more time. You could have it so that the user enters their name at the start of the document, and on the next slide it welcomes them with their name. We looked at adding quizzing to this, and then finally the exportation, as well as there is one thing you can do, which is export the captions directly. So after your presentation's created, you want to change it to a different language. You can export all the captions, and then it gives you basically a Word document where you can change the captions and bring them back in. So now let's jump into Articulate storyline. Our demonstration storyline won't be as long. I'm just going to show you a little bit of the the interface design, some of the themes, doing some recording. You can still do all basically the same thing in Articulate when it comes to creating a basic presentation. Matter of fact, if you have a lot of stuff in PowerPoint, when you're bringing it into Articulate, bringing it into an e-learning software, Articulate's a lot more functionable when it comes to bringing in PowerPoint. It divides up all the items and actually tries to remember some of the timing as well. So it's a little unique. So I'm just going to go into Articulate. I'm going to create a basic project. I'm going to show you a little bit of how recording works inside Articulate, show you how you add quiz and questions. Essentially, it works the same way, and the two products compete with each other very well. It's a nice way of saying that they both are on each other's toes. So something that might get created inside Captivate, you betcha Articulate's going to have something very similar shortly thereafter. So we've sort of noticed it go back and forth with things like characters and things like that. Okay, so let me hop over here into the screen sharing window again, and I will share a little bit about Articulate. All right, so I'm just going to go here into Articulate. So this is what Articulate looks like as soon as you get there. If you're used to using PowerPoint, it's a little bit more, I don't want to say user-friendly, maybe user-welcoming. It looks a little familiar. Now, one thing that's unique with Articulate is you can only do one story at a time. Now, what this means is Articulate Storyline really refers to the idea of everything you're creating is a story. Now, imagine it like a book. A story would be a book. A scene would be a chapter in the book. And a page would be a slide. So you can have multiple scenes, and you can have only one inside the story, and you can have multiple slides per scene, but you can't have more stories open at the same time. You can create more stories, but you just can't have them open at the same time. Some people find when you're copying and pasting from one document to another, it's a little bit time-consuming, and they don't love that about it. I think that's a little bit of a negative or something that would be a little less desirable for Articulate if you are going to be bringing a lot of documents in and copying, pasting, and retrofitting basically old presentations into the LMS system. Articulate works really well, but it might be a little bit slower for that. But I actually think, personally, between the two, I don't have one that I love more than the other. I use them both every day, and I use them both and teach them both often. So I think they both have their advantages and disadvantages, but quite honestly, they're very, very, very competitive. Okay, so we created this new document and this new story here, and we have one particular scene. So we can actually call this a scene. So what I'm going to do is just call this presentation. And I'm going to double click on the very first slide, and it gives you hops you right into this very first scene. It's called the scene editor or the scene view, and I can take a look at this. Now, this particular layout here, I don't really love. I'm going to actually just go and grab a new slide, and this time, instead of a regular slide, I'm going to offer some of these templates. Does this look familiar? Looks very similar to Captivate. Now you see how the two products really compete with one another. So you got title and content. I'm going to go ahead and insert that one. I'm actually going to take this first slide here and delete it. Now, so I can add this as my title. I'm going to call it presentation. And I'm going to call this my subtitle if I wanted to. Or, notice I have this fun thing here where I can add stuff like adding an image. Right there I can say, I want to add an image. I'm just going to go here into my pictures. I'm going to go to my sample pictures, and yeah, I'm going to add the tulips right there. And I can move that over if I wanted to. One thing I can also add to this is I could turn around and say, yeah, I want to add a fun little thing like a character. So notice the insert ribbon here. Everything's done with a ribbon. You'll have home ribbon, insert ribbon, design ribbon. Notice right here too, these are themes. Works exactly like Captivate. You can add a different theme to it as you go. I'm going to add this blue theme here. Or I can say I want to make it all this gray theme or a black theme here. And you can change back and forth quickly through the themes. Now, under the animations, you can change your animation per slide. This is really user-friendly. I know people that like adding animations. They like adding transitions to it. Different transitions or having things fly in and fly out. If you love doing that, Articulate is the product for you. It works really easy. In Captivate, it's called effects, and you got to add an effect and choose the effect time. Not really as friendly to do it. They both work really well. It just Articulate, it's really easy. It's just right up here. It's a click, away you go. Whereas on Captivate, you have to insert a effect and add it to it. So it's a little bit of a downside to Captivate on that standpoint. So I'm going to have this item. I'm going to have it when it flies in. I'm just going to have it fly in medium, and I'm going to have it just fly in from the left. And when I transition to the next slide, I'm just going to have it sort of swipe down to the bottom. Okay, so I love this. I'm also going to go back to insert here, and I'm going to add a fun little thing. I'm going to add a character, an illustrated character. Now this is very unique to, or was very unique to Articulate, and slowly Captivate has actually added it. You do have to pay for these. If you want to get more characters, it's more money. So it's a little bit of a downside to Articulate. So anyway, I'm going to just pick one of these characters here, and I'll grab female 7 here, or male 8, or any of these guys right now. And I can move him to the left. I can change the expression, and he's talking because he's doing his Articulate versus Captivate presentation. Change his pose, do all sorts of stuff. Give him a little thumbs up, and I can insert him here. So this is a fun little character I can add and grab. Totally free with the base, the built-in ones. Now I'm going to go and insert another new slide, and this time I'm just going to go with just title only. My second caption I'm going to add it by actually hitting insert here. So I'm going to go up into my text box and just add it like so. And I'm going to put some points in here, be like point 1, point number, and I'm just going to select that and copy it to make things easier here. Point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, point number 4, point number 5, point number 6. The reason I have these separated is because Articulate offers a really neat little thing here. So I can adjust the timeline. I could say, click to add the title, and I'm just going to go ahead and add that title 2. And I'm going to say, I want this to play for 8 seconds. Articulate doesn't have a panel on it where you can change the exact timing, so you do have to do it by manually moving it across. But this particular title, I'm going to go and look at my animations here, and I'm going to have this one fly in from the left, and I'm going to have this one fly in from the right. by saying fly in. I can choose a whole bunch of stuff. I can have it fly in, I can have it grow, I can have it spin, I can have it fade in. I'm going to change one thing really neat here. I'm going to have this fly in by first level paragraph. And what that means is every single time you hit a hard cursor or a paragraph break, it is going to change that into an individual timing mark. And take a look at this. If I expand this a little bit, I can go point 1. I want point 1 to come in at 1 second. I can just adjust it here, so it comes in at 1 second. Point number 2 comes in at 2 seconds. And I can actually shrink all of it back. So I can say, you know what, I want this. Doesn't want to move on me here. Just want to shrink it. There we go. And same with this. Got 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. I can even add a little thing called a cue, so it actually lines up to it. I can add a cue into right here. And now I'm just going to shrink some of these ones back. Yeah, bring them all back. Now, it's a little more work to do it this way, but it really makes your life easy by having it come in by individual points. This is something you can't do in another product. You can only do it in Articulate. And what happens is you're able to basically make all of these go at once. It's really, really handy. All right, so now I'm going to play this and actually show you what it looks like. It's really quite neat. So I can see that they're going to fly in. It's just going to play. It takes a couple seconds to load. I find Articulate's a little bit slow like that. But you guys might be able to see the points flying in. It's a little bit slow on your screen, but it works really, really well. So that's Articulate, and that's showing all those different points. Let me just check one. I'll hop back here to this. Make sure we're not missing anything. All right. I want to show you a little bit about some of the triggers that are involved. So you'll notice that every single slide has a thing called triggers. It says jump to next slide when the user clicks the next button. Now, if I go to story view, I can see this is a story. I can add multiple scenes. So for example, add another new scene, or I can add a second section to it. So it kind of gives you automatic branching, where it sort of jumps from one to the next. And you'll notice that every single slide you have the option of choosing previous or next. That's why when you play it, the player actually has a next or back button. So you can allow it to play automatically to the next slide, but you can also let the user choose if it goes to the next one and back one. Same thing's available with Captivate, but it's not built in for you to just go next and back. Now, I have it set here so that the user is going to, when it jumps to the next slide, when they hit the next button, I can turn around here and change this around. So, for example, I can put a next button on there, or I can even add an entire button. So when they get to the end of presentation 1, I can turn around and say, you know what, I want to add, I insert a button. This particular button, I'm going to draw it right here, and it's going to say next presentation. There we go. And when they click that, this trigger, they're not going to go to the next slide. They're going to go to the next scene or the next presentation when they click it. So if I go back to the story view now, everything's on top of one another. So it goes from here to here, and then it shows you it's going to go there to there. It's sort of like a branching view. All of this is available in Captivate, and it actually works just as easy by setting up the buttons. I actually find Captivate a little more specific about how the buttons, when they turn on and when they're active or inactive, which is something you can't do in Articulate. But they both work really well. I do find the triggers are a little more advanced inside Articulate, a little bit harder to understand, whereas they're quite simple in Captivate. And some of the things in Captivate are really quick and easy to do, like those rollovers. And they're not as easy to do inside Articulate. Articulate, you have to set up a thing called layers, or you can set up another thing called states, and you can change states around based on buttons. Everything I'm saying right now is probably pretty advanced, but we cover it all during the classes. All right, so I've covered everything here. Took a look at the unique timeline. Took a look at some branching. Understand some of the triggers. I'm going to add another question to this. So I got this slide. I'm actually going to change this particular slide. I'm going to go and say, I want to change this slide to the layout of it, and I can change it to a question. And if I double click on it here, it sort of adding, I can also say, I want to insert an actual quiz question by adding a new slide. And instead of choosing the basics or a template, which are these fun little ones that have been created in advance that have the characters already made. These are great, by the way. What I can do is add quizzing and just throw in a multiple choice question. Hit insert here. You don't have the ability to design it as easy, so I can say here the same thing. What did we search for in Google? I could say, this is the correct answer, antique bikes, racing bikes, and dinner. So we know this one's the correct one. We can shuffle all the answers around so it doesn't know which one's the right answer. And I can just hit save, and it will create this question for us based on the layout. So there it is there. And you can see, you can even adjust the timelines of it too. I can have them come in at different times. So I can just have them sort of switch around, and then people can answer them. So this is a really great little feature, being able to design like this. Okay, so that's our design inside Articulate. We made a nice little presentation. When I go to play it, it's using the preview. So I can preview this slide or the entire project, which I'm going to do. This is the previewer. This is the way the player looks, and I can see how the presentation works. They give you this little menu bar where I can actually navigate my way through, or I can use the back and next. Okay, click here for next presentation. Sorry, I spelled that wrong. All right, if I click, should jump me over to the next one. I'll have to take a look at why it's not, but anyway, I can say here with the end side, what did we search for? Antique bikes, road bikes, dinner. And there we go. I just had someone say that the audio was choppy a little bit on them. I don't know if they're having any troubles listening to me. I'm just checking my bandwidth here. Not having any problems. No. All right. Can everyone hear me okay still? All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and here and hit close the preview. And I'm going to just basically wrap up with that. I do still have the same ability of going and creating one of those screen recordings. It works basically the same way, and they offer almost identical features. One thing that's nice about Articulate is once you create a recording, you can use it over and over in different types of recordings. We can get to that if you have some questions about it. So let me just hop back in here to the meeting room, go back to the presentation. I'm just going to check here if everyone can hear me. Okay. Brian, you're saying you can hear me okay? All right. So those were the few things that we went through to show the storyline demonstration. If there's anything else you want me to show in detail, I can after the presentation's over. So I have a little bit of thing I created here called the Captivate Advantages. User-friendly interface design, the workspaces, the character cost is free, creating rollovers, recording windows and programs, the timeline, having pause buttons, creating the branching views a little bit easier, rollover items are a little bit easier to use. Some of the actions and widgets are really unique to Captivate, so they work really well. All of them are possible to do inside Articulate. And exportation and publishing is great, works really, really well. Not to say that it's a disadvantage over Articulate. Articulate's got a really great lineup of advantages as well. And you can see here, obviously the interface design by far is the biggest advantage. The buttons and states are very unique to Storyline. They work really well. 4 types of recordings at once. You can also create fun little things called light boxes. So if you want to click on an image, you can have it pop up and hover like a light box. The triggers are really quite amazing. You can add multiple triggers to one button, and very easily, as opposed to creating advanced actions inside Captivate. And again, the unique timeline where you can separate those paragraph settings. The exportation to the Storyline LMS is very quick and easy. The LMS they have works really well. It's quite pricey, but it's pretty simple to use. So that is it for our Articulate versus Captivate demonstration. I'm going to just change this window now to basically open it up to questions for anyone. So I'm just going to move this over. And now if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Just type it in there, and I'll stop the recording now, and I'm just going to go through some of the questions. But if you don't mind, if you could take a look at our poll for us, and let us know what you thought. What do you think of this being helpful, and which one do you prefer? All right. Well, thanks for joining us today on today's presentation. I'm just going to hit stop recording, and we'll go take a look at some of these questions.